Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of What If Civilization Started Over. In the last episode, we saw a couple of big lore drops. Um, Mainly, we saw over here, we found out that every single one of these countries is being supplied. We also found out a secret alliance has been existing for who knows how long. And, we also did power rankings, and then lastly came over here and saw a the Great Australian War breakout. So, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get started. So, obviously, we're going to be starting off where we left off in this war, as we saw America, Central America, and the Caribbean islands all joined this war. The only two countries that aren't fighting each other are America and the Caribbean islands, because that's gonna create some issues, and they don't want issues. Um, Basically, they don't want a whole world war. So we found out that West Mexico is being supplied by Ethiopia. America and Caribbean islands, they're obviously being supplied by Great Lakes Empire and Switzerland, respectively. Mexico is being supplied by the Great Empire, and lastly, Central America is being supplied by Korea, uh, and Texas is being supplied by that secret anti-colonial organization, or the ACO. But where we didn't really touch much on was Texas, but we see Texas is invading, and or Texas is not invading anyone now. West Mexico is invading into the Texan areas. They're kind of just slowly creeping their way through the country. Although once they get to the capital, they kind of branch out to capture it, which is what Mexico was really hoping to do. So we see Mexico will now just kind of collapse these forces in a way, and they start pushing them all back down south. They then move some of these forces up along the coastline. However, they can only get so far before we see America start getting its full troops out here. They had their troops stationed somewhere else, but now they're starting to fully get troops out to fight this region. And we're going to find out where those stationed troops at were soon. Also, can you guys believe we're now on episode 40 of this series? Honestly, I can't. But you know what I can believe is that now, once we come down here, we find out that we've we finally figured out where America was stationing its forces. As without them, the green team is appearing extremely weak. That's right. America was helping the green team plan their invasion in the first place. But now that America is fighting back at home, we see the green team is severely suffering. Oh, what's that? You think these other guys are supplied too? Well, you would be absolutely correct. As we see, Blue Australia requests some extra forces from the Great Empire. The red team will request forces from the entire Square Alliance. The green team is going to say, please, can we get some more forces from the Trapezoid Alliance? And, well, no one asks Ethiopia for anything other than the blue team, who wants aid from pretty much everyone. Although Ethiopia is sending a lot of aid down to the blue team. Switzerland's actually the one that's really not having to send any aid out, but these guys are actually getting the most aid, and they still want more because I mean, their capital's captured. What would you expect else otherwise? But even with that, they will send all their forces straight up through here, and they will meet up with this sea that I totally know the name of the sea, but we see them have a fun time up here as they totally aren't committing some fun things. If we go onto this map, we see a little bit of changing going on. That's that's weird. Don't know why this is like that. Alright. No, stop getting off track. Alright. But we see the blue team is well, they don't really like this sub sub religion of the brown team. So they switch some things up, and they do it by killing people and replacing people with their own, even though oh, they're doing this in territory that's not even theirs. Yeah, nobody calls this out, by the way. Nobody's calling this out. Nobody's calling this out. The internet doesn't really exist yet, though, so it's okay. Although we are starting to get into the early 1950s, Mhm. and well, we're gonna actually this is really our daily Oceania update, but we have more updates, and we're staying on this religion map, even though I already turned it off. As more islands are starting to become part of the island survivor religion, and you know who really doesn't like this island survivor religion? These guys. Um, and I mean, there's a lot of other people who don't like it. I think it's gonna take over the world and stuff, but it's mainly these guys down here that don't like it. But up here, we see the brown religion is finally starting to spread back into areas where it was extremely oppressed. Yeah, there was not a lot of good stuff going on up here. Countries joined for economic purposes, and they ended up getting absolutely ruined. Things will never be the same here, but they're gonna try. And just look, this part of the purple religion just got crushed. I mean, it used to be really big, but now it's not at all. Anyway, we don't. Let's not talk about oppressing people and stuff. They're all just gonna deny it. Alright, we're gonna move back over here. We're really just gonna be going back and forth between these wars with some extra things going on. But we see Korea has sent Central America a ton of aid. It's not just Korea, China, South China, they're all sending their aid down to them and over into the red country, although that's not really working out very well. But we see enough aids being sent into Central America that they're able to start moving up through the red team, and they come up here and they start piercing through the Yucatan, meeting up with the Gulf of Mexico. seeing as their pretty much ally is already starting to really fall in battle, the Grid Empire is gonna they're like, okay, so Mexico, you're strong, we've given you enough, you're gonna be able to fight on your own, right? Obviously, Mexico's not, but many other Cross Alliance members, like Catalonia, are still supporting them, although Catalonia really wants this land back. It was like the backbone of their economy. Italy's aiding them, Adriatic Union is. It's like you got top 10 powers still. Uh but it's still it will be enough that they're able to move move down a bit from in the Yucatan. They also push from their central areas. And finally, they cut off Central America from the Gulf of Mexico. Central America has Korea's extremely good navy, whereas there's not much navy being sent over to Mexico, so they are having a hard time defending this area. However, they are having a wonderful time fighting against West Mexico now. Although West Mexico has really locked in on Texas, as they have captured the whole northern part of this country that wasn't already controlled by America. And it well, all of these countries have their strong areas, every single one of them, and most of them have a weak spot too. America does not have a weak spot. The Caribbean islands actually don't have a weak spot either. Um, and those are the only two, mainly because they're not even fighting each other. But we see the Caribbean nation is actually getting its game on, as they're now being the ones to move into the Yucatan, and the um they're taking the same advantage that Korea has in Mexico. And Switzerland is sending its also pretty strong navy. And all these countries here have pretty strong navy. They were they were colonial, so I mean, they kind of have to have strong navy for that. But we see we see Switzerland help the Caribbean nation to take over all of the Yucatan. And now we see what the Caribbean nation wanted to do down here. They're gonna work with a country that's not in their alliance. They're actually gonna work with America-ish. And well, the Colombians are gonna get some land. Or not Colombians. They're gonna get the Venezuelans are gonna get some land out of this. And then we see, well, turns out Central America and Venezuela hate each other. We don't know why they do, but they do. And you know what comes out from that? A full-on revolution. So, uh, alright. So we see a blue Colombian nation begins to pop up. Not really being supported by anyone. These guys, it's mostly just like civilians down here. But when you have like a whole civilian militia, it's with more people than a full army, it's kind of hard to stop against that. And it turns out that these guys have other like, deals that they want to work out with Venezuela. It's mostly just a bit. There's a big border dispute that goes on here. And there, it's insane. Doesn't follow any provinces either. It's just pretty much like e this area thinks that a lot of this portion should be theirs. They also think that down here should be, but they're not gonna worry about Ecuador, right? I mean, you don't want to be at war with two whole alliances. So we see this blue country, just kind of figuring things out. I'll make them a bit brighter. All right, but all right, this rebellion is well, they're not fond of anyone really down here, and they actually end up taking over all of this land. The only ones they're kind of fond of is the Caribbean islands. So they're like, you know what, actually, Caribbean islands, take over you can take over a little bit of the land up here. They're gonna, they're gonna kind of sort out a peace treaty, in the, in that some, we see these provinces up here are kind of just directly handed over to the Caribbean nation, even though the war hasn't ended and it's not officially recognized. But Switzerland wants to keep pushing, and these guys aren't. They don't want Switzerland to keep pushing. And they're like, if you tell the Caribbean nation to keep pushing, then we're gonna get rid of. They're gonna get out of here, and we won't give it to them. So you see Switzerland kind of back off from over here, and now they kind of just focus on aiding these guys like they should be doing. So we see the Caribbean nation push down into Central America again, or really more up. But we see Mexico and ar- their army strength is beginning to their army strength is beginning to overwhelm Central America, and Central America is pushed back quite a bit. Up north, it's pretty similar, except the Caribbean nation is, for whatever reason, doing way better than these guys, and we see why. Korea is starting to focus down here, as if they think if they can dominate over here, then we can just easily switch up. So the red team is mostly freed, although going back on the religion map, it once they get back over to some of these areas, they're gonna realize it's way different. Let me just yeah. All right. So they get back over here, and they see a lot of the blue team's population, and now they start calling out against the blue team. People are like, other than the um, other than the Square Alliance, people don't really care about this. So we see the Square Alliance is like loudly speaking at these people, not quite yelling, but they're like, we're not yelling at you guys, but like you guys need to help do something down here. But the red team's able to push back, getting all of their land back very quickly, and most of the borders don't even like the pushes don't even change a whole lot by that point. And then we see the red team start pushing into the green team. Then they follow up with the blue team, who already committed genocides. But then after that, they take over right here against the yellow team, and now it's kind of clear who's going to win until we see, other than in New Zealand, these guys push out or like take back. And then they start pushing back against the red team, and they're like, how do we know you're not gonna do genocides too? And and then these guys start jumping on that, and eventually, uh, we see, for whatever reason, we see three countries that hate each other decide, you know what, let's unite under the blue team. So, somehow that ends up working, and pretty much the countries that were fighting over here, or like sending aid down, are suddenly pulling out because they think these guys have it. In fact, they do not have it. Korea's aid is just too much. Still, and obviously it's not just Korea. There's three top 10 powers. Yeah, three top 10 powers helping out over here. But we're gonna come back. We're gonna go back to our original. And, and well, if you haven't already told quickly, obviously we're now officially in the Cold War era. And this isn't a bipolar system like in the real world. This isn't a tripolar system like in Aegis Brunswick. So it's not even a quadpolar system like in my last WICSO, where we had the Wolfid Empire, Persia, Tanzania, and Lake Baikal. No, we are in a I believe it's a quintupolar system or quinpolar system, where we have five different nations, all are kind of competing against each other, all trying to outdo each other, and this ends up resulting in us needing a new layer, as we see a new material has been found deep inside the Caspian areas. This isn't the only spot it's found, and it's been found before, but they're now starting to finally research the properties of it. Other similar materials are found, and some of the people that are mining them, they're starting to get sick. Um, and a new type of element is put on the table. And people working with it, they start getting sick and sick. And everyone's getting sick until, for the first time, one of the researchers has died from a new poisoning. And it's called radiation poisoning by the people that are researching it. This element that they have found, known as element 92 on the periodic table of elements, is uranium. And what do they start doing after finding this uranium? Well, what has every other WICSO had done? The first nuke is made by the Great Empire. And obviously, other countries are going to want in. The second nuke in the world is made after more uranium is found in the upper Canadian areas, and two nukes are made by the Great Lakes Empire. But that will do it for today's episode of What If Civilization Started Over. Now we were going to do something right here, but I needed to get the nukes out of the way, and this is getting quite lengthy anyway. So with that, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.